The Young and the Restless Spoilers shock. Adam and Chelsea had been living a life that many would call idyllic, tucked away in the polished luxury and coastal calm of Nice, a place where the world slowed down just enough for them to breathe without the suffocating weight of Genoa City's constant schemes, rivalries, and betrayals. It was a quiet chapter, almost too quiet, with their days marked by long walks along the French Riviera, the sound of the sea against the cliffs, and conversations that carried little urgency beyond what to eat for dinner or which corner cafe to revisit. For months, it seemed as though drama had been left behind, as though their past sins and struggles had finally decided to loosen their grip and let them fade into the background of ordinary life. But such peace was never meant to last for Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson, two people whose lives had always been defined by turbulence, loss, and the haunting shadows of choices made long ago. It came crashing down with a single message, a jarring phone call from a hospital far away, the words delivered with a blunt force that ripped apart the fragile tranquility they had wrapped themselves in. Connor, their son, the boy who had always been at the center of both their redemption and their failures, had been in a car accident. He was in critical condition. He was alone in that moment, without his parents, fighting for his life in a sterile room filled with machines and strangers in white coats. The calm of Nice vanished instantly, replaced by a storm neither of them were prepared for. Connor had never had it easy. Diagnosed with autism at a young age, he had spent much of his life in environments carefully structured to help him find stability and growth, while Adam and Chelsea wrestled with their own demons. Adam had always feared he would ruin his son the way Victor Newman had scarred him, while Chelsea fought her own guilt about not being enough of a mother in moments when Connor needed her most. Yet against all odds, Connor had grown stronger. He had shown resilience that surprised even his parents, gradually learning to carve out moments of independence, proving that his condition was not a prison but a challenge he could rise above. He became a symbol of hope for Adam and Chelsea, a reason to keep trying, to keep fighting, to keep believing in the possibility of a future where love could outweigh the mistakes of their past. Now, that hope hung by a thread. The image of their son lying unconscious, machines keeping him alive, haunted them as they rushed through the airport, boarded the first available flight, and prayed with every breath that they would not arrive too late. The mystery of the accident gnawed at them from the start. Hospitals rarely called with so little detail unless the situation was dire, and the words "critical condition" lingered like a dagger twisting in their hearts. What had happened to Connor? Was it a reckless driver, an accident born of bad timing and bad luck? Or was there something darker at play, a targeted act, the kind of sinister twist that seemed to follow the Newman family wherever they went? Adam in particular could not shake the paranoia. He had lived too long in a world where enemies never disappeared, only waited for their chance to strike. The notion that his son might have been caught in the crossfire of grudges he had earned over a lifetime was not far-fetched. Chelsea tried to silence those fears, reminding him that speculation helped no one, but deep inside she was just as terrified. Connor's life had been fragile before, but this could shatter everything. On the long flight back, every minute stretched like an eternity. They clutched each other's hands, sometimes in silence, sometimes in whispered prayers, each lost in their own memories of Connor. Adam remembered the first time he held his son, how small and fragile he was, how a wave of protectiveness surged through him despite the chaos of his own life. Chelsea remembered the moments when Connor, despite his challenges, surprised her with a smile or a small victory that seemed to light up the entire room. To lose him now, to have those memories become all that remained, was unthinkable. The what-ifs grew louder with every mile. What if he didn't wake up? What if they had already missed their chance to say goodbye? What if this was punishment for every wrong they had committed? Adam, hardened though he was, felt tears sting his eyes. Chelsea, usually strong in crisis, felt her chest tighten with dread. Both of them silently begged for one more chance to make things right, to be there for their son the way they always should have been. When they finally landed and rushed to the hospital, the sterile smell and blinding white lights made the moment feel unreal. Doctors' faces were unreadable, nurses moved quickly past them, and the sound of monitors beeping somewhere down the hall only amplified the panic rising in their chests. They wanted answers, but the medical staff offered little reassurance, only the standard words of caution and procedure. Connor was alive, but he was unconscious. There was internal bleeding, head trauma, and broken bones. The doctors said it would be a long road, that the next 24 hours were critical, and that no one could predict the outcome. That uncertainty was a blade twisting deeper with every second. The accident itself raised more questions than it answered. Reports suggested it had been a single car crash, but details were scarce. Connor had been returning from an outing, but who had been with him, why the car had lost control, and whether negligence or something more sinister was involved remained murky. Adam demanded to see the police report, convinced that this was no coincidence, while Chelsea tried to keep him focused on the only thing that mattered, Connor's survival. Still, she too wondered. The Newman name was both a shield and a target, and though Connor had lived apart from Genoa City, the ripples of his family's influence reached further than they realized. Could someone have orchestrated this? Was Connor paying the price for being Adam's son? As they sat by Connor's bedside, the machines humming around him, Adam and Chelsea found themselves confronting not just the accident but the weight of every choice they had made as parents. They had chosen distance, chosen to build a life away from the chaos, believing it would protect him. Yet here he was, broken and vulnerable, and they were powerless to do anything but wait. It was a cruel irony that after years of trying to shield him from their world, fate had struck him down anyway. The guilt was unbearable, and it threatened to pull them apart even as they clung to each other. Chelsea whispered promises to her son, telling him to fight, to hold on, to come back to them. Adam sat in silence, his mind a storm of rage, guilt, and fear, his hand gripping Connor's so tightly it was as if he could tether him to life through sheer willpower. The world outside the hospital room kept moving, but for Adam and Chelsea, time froze. Every sound, every movement, every flicker on the monitor became monumental. They knew their lives would never be the same, whether Connor lived or died. If he survived, they would have to rebuild everything, to devote themselves fully to helping him heal, both physically and emotionally. If he didn't, the thought was too much to bear, a darkness neither of them could imagine surviving. Their prayers grew more desperate, their faith tested to its very core, as they awaited the verdict of fate. And so, the questions loomed in the air, unanswered and suffocating. Would Connor wake up? Was this accident merely a cruel twist of fate, or the beginning of something darker? Would Adam and Chelsea find the strength to face what lay ahead, or would this tragedy finally break them beyond repair? In the end, all they could do was sit by their son's side, waiting for the moment when his eyes would open again, or for the silence that would shatter their world forever. For months now, speculation has rippled through the world of the young and the restless, whispering that Mark Grossman, the actor portraying Adam Newman, could be on the verge of leaving the show due to creative disagreements with the current writing direction. Adam has long been a central figure of conflict, redemption, and raw emotional storytelling, a character whose presence injects both danger and vulnerability into Genoa City's landscape. If Adam departs either permanently or even temporarily, the ripple effect would be enormous, not only altering the delicate balance of Newman family drama but also highlighting the ongoing dissatisfaction many fans currently feel toward the show's leadership. The issue, however, is far larger than one actor or one character. It touches on the very pulse of a soap opera that has survived for more than 50 years, through countless shifts in tone, casting, and cultural relevance. The central criticism revolves around the head writer, who has been accused of suffocating the series with uninspired storylines, recycled ideas, and a frustrating lack of innovation. Viewers are accustomed to the young and the restless being bold, unpredictable, and emotionally rich, but lately, many feel the show has fallen into monotony. The problem isn't just the storylines themselves, but the failure to maximize the potential of its legacy characters while also under-delivering on the younger generation. Fans are quick to remind executives that soaps thrive on daring risks, shocking twists, and emotional stakes that feel larger than life, but in recent years, the show has leaned heavily on safe, drawn-out arcs that lack the electricity of past decades. The frustration has grown so loud that waves of online campaigns now openly call for the removal of the head writer, with hashtags circulating across social media urging CBS and Sony to take action. Yet despite the discontent, a contract is still in place, and such decisions are never simple in a world where ratings, finances, and executive politics are tangled together. The irony is palpable. The Young and the Restless has always prided itself on longevity, but longevity alone cannot sustain an audience without freshness and urgency. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott, two titans who carried the torch of rivalry for decades, are now aging figures, still commanding respect but unable to believably drive the relentless wars of corporate sabotage and personal vendettas they once embodied. Eric Braeden and Peter Bergman remain iconic, but even the most loyal fans recognize the limitations of telling high-octane storylines around characters who can no longer physically engage in the same way they did 20 or 30 years ago. This generational shift presents a daunting challenge. Who steps forward to lead? The immediate choices, Billy Abbott, Kyle Abbott, and Kane Ashby, do not inspire universal confidence. Billy has been defined by self-destruction for so long that many feel fatigued by his constant cycles of redemption and relapse. Kyle, once the golden son poised to inherit both power and drama, is often criticized for lacking the gravitas needed to carry the show's central conflicts. Kane, who could have been the perfect outsider-turned-legacy leader, has been too inconsistently written over the years to earn the trust of viewers as a permanent frontman. The fear, articulated openly on fan forums and during daytime panels, is that without Adam anchoring one side of the narrative chaos, and without a writer daring enough to refresh the storytelling, The Young and the Restless could find itself adrift at the very moment it needs clarity the most. Adam's potential departure sharpens these anxieties. He has always been a lightning rod. Polarizing, unpredictable, but undeniably compelling. He represents the darker edges of the Newman empire, the son who inherited both his father's brilliance and his flaws, constantly struggling with whether he is destined to be Victor's true heir or his eternal disappointment. Removing him from the canvas would strip the show of one of its last characters capable of embodying that blend of danger, charisma, and tragic vulnerability. For Chelsea, for Nick, for Victor, even for Sharon and Sally, Adam's presence ensures conflict and stakes that keep the storylines from stagnating. Without him, a hole would open that no current character is equipped to fill. This is why fans, while angry, are also torn. They want change at the top, but they also recognize that tearing apart the foundation of the show too quickly could unravel the entire structure. Some argue that patience is necessary, that the production team may already be quietly scouting new writing talent who could reinvigorate the storytelling while respecting the weight of its history. Replacing a head writer on a soap is not like changing showrunners on a primetime drama. It means shifting the direction of dozens of intertwined characters, balancing contracts, and maintaining consistency without alienating loyal viewers. The calls for immediate removal may feel righteous, but the reality of soap opera production is far more complicated. Still, questions linger. Who could step in and guide The Young and the Restless into its next era? The list of candidates is short, and the task is immense. It requires someone who understands the DNA of the show, the corporate rivalries, the generational legacies, the interwoven romances and betrayals, while also being brave enough to take risks. A new architect of story would need to honor the legacy of William J. Bell's creation while pushing it into a modern landscape where daytime soaps must fight harder than ever to survive. Could it be someone from within, a seasoned breakdown writer who has lived inside the show's engine room for years? Or would it take an outsider, someone willing to rip down the old structures and rebuild with bold strokes? Fans fantasize about past writing regimes that delivered unforgettable arcs, the return of presumed dead characters, shocking paternity twists, the kind of drama that glued millions of eyes to the screen. What they crave most is a sense that the show still has fire in its veins, that Genoa City still matters. The truth is, The Young and the Restless stands at a crossroads. Victor and Jack cannot carry the weight forever, and the younger generation has yet to truly claim the throne. If Adam leaves, the void may accelerate the urgency for change, forcing producers to confront questions they have avoided for too long. The show has endured for over half a century, surviving cast changes, backstage drama, and shifting audience tastes. But endurance is not the same as relevance, and relevance is what today's fans demand. Their frustration, though loud, comes from love, a love for a show that shaped afternoons, defined eras, and created icons. For now, the message is clear: patience may be wise, but complacency is dangerous. If Adam Newman's exit becomes reality, it will not just be another actor leaving a soap, it will be a symbol of deeper fractures that must be addressed. The head writer's vision is under fire, the audience's faith is wavering, and the next steps will determine whether The Young and the Restless continues its reign as daytime's crown jewel or slowly becomes a relic of its past glory.